go for pace tonight, Lauren, in this one with the way these two teams hope to play. We're just about ready. And the best way to say Happy New Year is a tip of a basketball for fans inside John Paul Jones Arena. This one between the Deacs and Who's underway. Virginia with the initial possession. A little bit of trouble with the handle. Comes out near side. It'll stay with Virginia. What do you watch from Virginia early in this one, Lauren?
Offensively, it's going to be the motion, and it's going to be going north and south rather than east and west.
Down the right side, first shot off the mark, and the Wake Forest Demon Deacons will have their initial possession. Here's how they line up for a bit of a shorthanded Wake squad.
Wake Forest, they have such a balanced roster. I mean, there are 4 players averaging 9+ points per game, and so 4 of them are on this graphic here. And these are the players that you're going to see the ball in their hands a lot. But, again, they're balanced, so they're not forcing anything.
It's also a team with a long layoff, the traveling violation an indicator of that. Both these teams a little shorthanded tonight. We mentioned that for a Wake team that was down to 8 players in their pre-Christmas contest. Here's the starting 5 for Virginia. There are some noticeable absences in the available players for UVA, though, Lauren.
Yeah, we see Adessa Noyan getting her start, as well as Latasha Latimore. She's been starting here in the past few games, but like you said, some players are out, like Yanta Vaughn and Taylor Lauterbach has been ruled out for illness tonight. And so Virginia is shorthanded, but this is something that Virginia has put on their board. This has been their adversity, right? And they're being able to play through it is a goal for them.
Yeah, no Vaughn for the 6th contest. Lauterbach, as we said, a little bit of illness involved, as you mentioned. So it is going to be those available in this contest. And this is not a new narrative, unfortunately, Lauren, when you talk about those that the Who's have been without, trying to get the full contingency involved.
Yeah, it can be so tough. There are several new faces on this team as well. And when you think about buying into Coach Mox's culture, you have to learn a role, you have to learn the culture, you have to learn, your responsibilities. And sometimes when injuries get involved, it can be really tough to do so.
Initial foul picked up by Coles allows Virginia to get on the board from the charity stripe. As the first free throw from Latimore, who you saw on that list, but is a part of things today. The first of 2 that go down to put Virginia on the board initially.
Yeah, she's going to be important in this game. Talk about rebounding. She is top 3 in ACC in rebounds per game. So Wake Forest is going to have to put a body on her and locate her on both sides of the court.
A Virginia team that prides itself on everybody a rebounder when you hear Coach Mox talk about it. The size underneath for Wake Forest noticeable, though the Deacs can't cash in on this trip. Johnson kicks and a 3 rattles down. So a couple from the charity stripe and then 1 from beyond the arc, and Virginia's off and running.
An early 3-point shot there, and we always say it, when Olivia McGee can get going early, it is Virginia's best on offense to be able to diversify those shots.
After the McGee 3, takeaway on the defensive end as well, and it's finished on the other end of the floor. There's Clark now involved, a 7-0 run to begin it for UVA.
Yeah, when we talked to Coach Gebbia, she said rebounding and transition defense. She knows Virginia likes to get out and run off of made buckets, missed buckets, and certainly off of a steal.
How about this start? A 7-0 lead for UVA. Nothing needed from Kamora Johnson on the scoreboard just yet. And now a foul underneath. This worth another glance as Virginia has started red hot.
Well, they've started in a zone, a high 3-2. Olivia McGee up at the top, and it just provides you opportunities to get a hand on the ball. Paris Clark, easy layup for her in transition.
How much does Coach Mox have to love the fact that a couple from the charity stripe for Latimore, then McGee able to knock down a 3, Clark with a bucket, so just about everybody involved for the 3rd-year head coach. You mentioned the foundational building blocks that have been laid, and both coaches talk about, under the current landscape, how much of a challenge it can be to get all the ducks in a row to begin these programs surging in the right direction.
Oh, yeah. Well, coaches always talk about it. It starts with them. It starts with their staff, and I think when they're able to focus there and build out, another 3 for Virginia.
How about that? Just inside the line initially, Latimore. She's able to knock it down for a couple more. 9-1 is the Virginia start. Wake Forest, a little shell shock, misses with the back of the iron. And this is taken away by UVA. Do you worry about the layoff if you're Wake right now, Lauren?
Oh, at some point you get it together. It's early. First quarter, you definitely have to get some runs in you. And there's nothing like playing against an ACC team, right? I'm sure in practice they have their practice guys and they're able to try to emulate a game. But after almost 12 days of no basketball, in regards to playing, it can be tough. So it takes some time.
Coach Chevy telling us you just don't know. They were last in action ahead of the holiday against UNCG, a regional rivalry there in the Triad. Her team still looking for its first field goal as Virginia has surged out front in this opening quarter. And a nice bounce back for UVA. You got to remember, most recently Virginia ran into the steamroller that has been Notre Dame in the ACC thus far. Who's, of course, we're at 9-9 midway through the first quarter in that one before seeing the Irish begin to pull away. Another solid start here for Virginia. Take away for Wake. That pesky Virginia D making its presence known in this first quarter. And this lost out of bounds to UVA.
Yeah, Jason, you talked about the layoff for Wake Forest and how tough it can be. Let's just bring our viewers into the fold here, because Wake Forest has also already seen 8 players, right? You talked about how at one point they were only playing, they only had 8 players to play, and already 8 players have been on the court.
Well, that was last time out. It was that contest against UNCG, a tightly fought contest between that crew out of the SoCal and from just outside Winston there in Greensboro. Her team down to 8 players on that night, still very short-handed. Trying to ask for some of those surrounding cast members to step up in these moments. An inbound for Virginia coming after a 9-1 run to begin it. All the way out top to Clark. According to script for Coach Mox and company thus far, though this won't be thrown away into that Wake Forest bench. It'll be Deacons basketball.
Coach Mox, not a fan of that play there, but it was one of the few times that we see Kimora Johnson not at the top of that play. We saw Paris Clark starting that play there, looking at some different opportunities here for Virginia's offense.
Trying to work it inside, see if the size advantage can be utilized. Jordan going hard to the hoop. She'll draw contact.
Definitely want to go inside and out for when you're going up against Virginia, right? They have the size, and although they don't have Taylor Lauterbach, Adesanoyan is extremely hard worker down there. You know, you can take advantage of the height. You want to do so.
First one rattles out for Jordan. A reminder, next Saturday's ACC Network men's basketball tripleheader features Clemson hosting Florida State at Littlejohn. That's 2 Eastern. Then North Carolina and North Carolina State squaring off in Raleigh. Finally, it's Virginia Tech and Cal. Should be a great afternoon and evening of ACC hoops on the network and the ESPN app. Hoop season in full swing now. You always know when the calendar rolls over to January, the games that matter are on the horizon, Lauren. Whether it's men's basketball, whether it's women's basketball, prime time for fans of the round ball.
Yes, it's my favorite time of the year. Whenever Christmas hits, I'm like, oh yeah, let's get ready to sit in front of TVs and watch. And yes, I say TVs because my family, we watch a lot of games at one time.
Got to have the multiple monitors going, that's for sure.
Oh yeah.
And multiple sports when you talk about the week that is right now heading into 2025. Big battle inside, and unable to come away with anything is Hines. Lattimore tried to stay hands up all the way, but you get the whistle underneath, and 2 shots coming.
Yeah, inside right now between Hines and Johns, we were able to see them just attacking, and it starts with the position. When you're able to see a player, all of the players' numbers, you know that you are in good position as a guard, or they're in good position as a guard, and that's just an easy pass inside.
Numbers popping out on Demara Hines for you. You could see a handful of players tinkering around double figures, and that's one thing you notice about Wake, a number of different scorers that they will rely upon when things are going well this season.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting, right? We talked about Virginia having the star in Kamora Johnson, but when you look at Wake Forest, they have a different opportunity because they have the opportunity to just feed the hot hand, right? Anyone can get going, and their offense really allows them to be able to just see who's open and take advantage of their defense.
Yeah, and this surge coming from obviously Johnson's leadership on the floor, but the scoring for Virginia from elsewhere to this juncture. Good sign for the Cavaliers, to say the least. 2 shots coming after the first personal on Lattimore. And Hines will see the initial try roll off.
Now, Hines was injured last year. Did not get to play, redshirted that year. And so this season, she is putting up about 8.8 points per game and has been pretty consistent from rebounds to points. She continues to assert herself.
Able to knock down the second, and all 3 Wake Forest points have come from the free throw line in this first quarter. Head of steam down the lane, and this is going to be a tie-up as Hurd tried to work her way through traffic. Possession arrow will give it to Wake Forest.
And despite Virginia's quick 9 points, Wake Forest isn't making it very easy when they are in that half-court set. They're putting pressure on that ball, making passes really hard.
Cavaliers 3 of 6 from the field when they've been able to get a shot up. You mentioned it. The passing lanes have been tough to come by. Here's Johnson. Dribbles right by, and there are the first points of the contest for Kamora Johnson.
Nice, easy left-hand layup for Johnson. Just way too easy coming down the court. Wake Forest has to make sure that they have a body or get a body between her and the ball, even if it comes from the help side.
Chased out by Hines, and she's bodied up initially, but a nice feed inside, though Virginia was waiting. Johnson this time retreats and looks for options. Rims off, but the battle inside gives Lattimore a chance. Rebound away to Sorby, and Wake Forest has its first field goal. Took a while, 4 and change remaining in the opening period before Wake connected on something from the floor.
There it is, Sorby able to take it against Virginia on the lane. Just reading the defense. It's going to take easy reads like that for Wake Forest to get going.
Deeks will be looking for the floodgates to open now after, as you said, the 12-day layoff and a trio of free throws to put them on the board. Finally something happening from the field, but second and third chances for Virginia make the difference. What a resilient possession for UVA, closed up in the end by Hurd.
Multiple looks at the basket. Virginia does such a good job of just getting position. They have 2 post players sitting down there waiting to get the rebound while their guards leak out to make sure they have defense in transition. Speaking
of defense, here's another takeaway. Kamora Johnson has it. Quick zip pass into the paint. And a whistle just before the action close to the hoop began. How about Hurd, Lauren?
Oh, yeah, being right where she's supposed to be. Kamora finding the lane. Hurd just being in the right spot and putting it high up on that glass. Virginia with a comfortable distance here in the first quarter. These numbers, the consistency of rebounds per game under Coach Mock, steady in the 40s, low 40s there, and it's been a 3rd in the ACC.
And you saw that 22-23 year, her first year, and the improvement that has been made. She said regardless of what the vitals say on the roster about size or any advantage you may have, everybody on this team expected to be a rebounder. Virginia had a +6 advantage at the initial time out there, just adding to it before your very eyes as it extends this possession. Back in Kamora Johnson's hands. Picked up her first bucket toward the end of that first sequence, and everything falling for UVA. This one high off the glass.
The bank is open for the freshman. She has a smile like she wasn't really expecting it to go that way, but it was good.
Well, you saw her working hard in the interior, and sometimes you can just throw one up from distance. Hurd from within, Hurd from without. She has 5 points in the contest. This disrupted right in front of the bench. Playing with a little extra right now.
Yeah, Hurd has been coming off of the bench more recently, and it has put a little bit of a fire in her. There is the three that was high on the glass. Something she knows a little bit about inside, and then on the other end comes down and blocks a three-point attempt in the corner.
Heard, of course, the Finals All-American nominee, who's listed as among the most versatile of the players on Virginia's roster. You see her versatility on display here. Battle for it. That's a second tie-up in recent moments, so this time it'll hang out on this end of the floor with UVA.
We saw back-to-back blocks there for Virginia on defense, and they are blocking team at this point. And it's not just Taylor Lauterbach who's pretty high up there in regards to 1.4 blocks per game, but this is a team that's third in the ACC, 5.4 blocks per game.
Already a couple of those notched, as you referenced, in this contest. And you said it, top tier in the ACC. Trying to reset things a bit from downtown. Sorby's off the mark, and it's Virginia's once more. 95 seconds and ticking downward to go in an opening period that has belonged to UVA.
Just a miss signal there. Kamora Johnson, she was going backdoor. Paris Clark was trying to swing it. But that's what kind of happens when the time is ticking and you're looking for an opportunity for the bucket. You just have to be on the same page there. That's Virginia's sixth turnover.
And the officials were on their toes. They're just not allowed to shoot it for either side. Our officials in this one, Timothy Bryant, Ashley Good, and Brandon Interline handling things in this one tonight. Here's Johnson and company at it again. And what a smooth touch from Kamora Johnson.
Adding a little fadeaway to her game, I think so. Beautiful read there. She didn't have the drive, and so she was able to just shoot it off of one leg.
Well, we talked about they did need her for that opening spurt. Well, Virginia pushed out 7-0 and beyond, but she has come to life now. And adding with it, how about this? Just able to tap it in and salvage the Wake possession.
Yeah, Coach Gebbia talked about getting the post players involved a little bit more, like we talked about in the open. Several different players in their starting five, averaging 9 points per game. But in the interior, she really wanted the post players to assert themselves, and we've seen that so far.
Yeah, she talked about how important it was going to be for Turcoff to learn how to score in the league, of course. And mentioned that the other bigs, as you said, Lauren, would be critical. Here's a chance with numbers for Wake to build on it, and suddenly the Deacons come to life as the period comes to a close. Little surge from Wake to get it inside single digits for...
Get treatment you'll actually love at hims.com.
We led with the opportunity to pick up an ACC win. Sometimes you learn a lot by taking a glance at the losses, and for Virginia, 3 of them have come to teams in the top 50 in the net rankings, Lauren.
Yeah, these teams are no joke. I mean, Notre Dame, one of the hottest teams in the nation, and Oklahoma having a breakout season so far. Virginia has a lot of tape that they can glean from in order to make the improvements that's necessary. And you think about the big wins that they were able to escape with last year, right? You think about Louisville, you think about UNC when they were ranked, and even Virginia Tech, those ACC teams, right? So the time is not lost on them, but it is time to start kicking things into gear and getting those big wins that are necessary come February, March.
Yeah, Virginia just able to really have a barometer against Notre Dame the last time out. Wake Forest just about to have that. They're going to need more of this as they prepare for what is a brutal stretch for the Deacons coming up schedule-wise, and that's also a good carryover from what was a solid closing stanza to that first period for Wake.
Yeah, Wake Forest able to knock down their first three-point shot, just moving the ball around the perimeter.
Only 1 for 3 from the field. Virginia does have an answer down the left side of the lane. Lattimore able to lay it home.
Beautiful lay off of a spin move for Latimer. It seems like her game just continues to grow every time she steps out on the court, and now she's at the top of the zone.
All kind of bodies inside. Virginia will have to surge out toward the shooter. It's off the mark, and they'll scramble for it on the floor. Another tie-up, and that'll leave it with UVA.
I mean, they cleared the side for her to do what she does best, and that is get to the rim. She even proud of herself there with a little smile. She cracked a smile on that one.
Lattimore, a reminder of how many different who's were involved in certainly the start of that first period. But you were impressed. I know we talked a little bit about it between quarters with how many different players were a part of Virginia's start.
Yes, everyone. Lattimore with 6. Got Hurd with 5. I mean, they're all just doing what is comfortable to them. No one's forcing it at this point.
Another 3 tried for Wake. This one won't go. The rebound inside for the Deacs. Point of emphasis after that first period. Second chance not there either, and here's Johnson away with it. Looks ahead and lost the handle.
Good defensive possession there. Virginia didn't have the numbers, and Wake Forest was able to come up with a steal.
Enough of a window to take a shot. It won't go down for Jones. Keeping it on this end of the floor. Here's another look from the corner. This one will rattle down. And Wake Forest all of a sudden cutting it to 5 with a late first period, early second quarter surge.
Well, all it took was 2, second on the team in 3-point field goals last season with 34%. And this year she's shooting 38. So she's capable, and she shot 2 of 5 last game. Definitely someone you want to keep an eye on.
Well, if you're Wake Forest, you see those 2 smooth strokes. You look up at the scoreboard now, Lauren, and you find yourself right there with UVA after what was a bit of a shaky start following the 12-day layoff.
Well, it could be so simple that you get a couple steals, knock down some threes, and you're right back in this thing.
It's like ACC basketball from where we sit. First conference win on the horizon for someone in this one tonight. Wake going into a stretch after that holiday hiatus that is going to be critical to their season, and for Virginia working right through it in the new year. Contact out top. You see McGee working her way over to the basketball. More in for Wake Forest. And here's Johnson. Well, was working her way closer to the hoop, but this is going to be called on Kimora Johnson.
Yeah, they were able to get their feet there, and the ref saw that as a charge call. They both seem to have bounced off of one another.
Stepping in there, now has the basketball in her hands following, in essence, the turnover. Important possession as Wake tries to get it back to 1 possession. Won't happen, and Lattimore is there to snatch it out of the sky. Back to Johnson. All kind of open real estate on that side of the floor. 3 to the back of the iron, and it's Moore with the rebound.
Well, Virginia wasn't able to take advantage of that, but all eyes are on Kimora Johnson when she has the ball.
Well, the stroke from beyond the arc that we saw from Conley a moment ago matched here, and the 3 ball has pulled Wake right up on the heels of the Hoos.
Well, the Chattanooga, Tennessee native has made herself comfortable in Charlottesville.
Yeah, she went to the Baylor School product coming to life here. And a foul as Grays and company gather up to talk it over. 2018 all of a sudden as Wake Forest in the closing seconds of that first period surged to life, and by use of the solid work from beyond the arc, her team now right in the thick of things. Coach Jevian, no stranger to this environment when you consider her time at American, an opponent that Virginia faced a little earlier this season, a kind of a rite of passage here at UVA. But you think about the job she did at that level, earning her the job at Wake Forest. And you kind of joked with her a little bit in talking with her this morning. This feels like an ACC tournament game, right? For whatever reason, these two teams have seemed to find each other in recent years in tournament action.
And that first few rounds always seem to find one another. So she knows a thing or two about Virginia, and as do they with Wake Forest. Different look, obviously, but Coach Gebbia knows a thing or two about winning as well. When she stepped on campus, she turned things around immediately, becoming the winningest first-year head coach for Wake Forest.
Well, there's still some football going on, right? She referenced Dave Clawson. She said, you know, now that he's not going to be at the helm of the football program anymore, he'll be even more accessible to us as part of the administration. She said, I've tried to learn from the other coaches. You talk about the Wake Forest athletic department. She said, I've tried to learn what I can, referencing his name maybe above all others as one she has leaned upon in kind of getting her sea legs underneath her there in Winston-Salem. Tamora Johnson palms up again a bit there, a little, you might say, less than pleased with the outcome on that trip down the floor.
Virginia's back into a zone defense here, even against a hot shooting Conley.
Trying to find a passing lane. There's not one. It's taken away by UVA. Clark kicks. And a scramble for it once more. Somehow it stays with Virginia. And guess who's right where she needed to be at the base of the Virginia logo to save possession.
The effort by Riley Grace to not only get on the floor and get the ball, but to pass it even as she was spinning around. Just the ability to even know where her players are, her teammates are. That was pretty cool. I haven't seen a hustle play like that in a minute.
Tremendous effort. That's what it's going to take now that ACC play is in full swing. Here's another three. Why not try it? With the way Wake has shot it of late. Working out for Conley, of course. This one untrue, and it stays at 4. Turnaround will not fall for McGee.
Wake Forest starting to match Virginia's efforts here. Defensively going into a zone, packing that paint, knowing that they like to get into the paint first before they leak out for shots.
4 and change to go in the opening half. Another Virginia takeaway, and this one is laid home. The distance for Paris Clark.
Can't do anything with that. Paris Clark in transition. A lot of these Virginia guards in transition, they do such a good job of just maintaining their composure and their body control, even with the defender on their side.
Quick answer for Wake is off the front of the iron, pulled down by Lattimore. Long three rattles out. Won't go down, and Wake away with it now. Timeout on the floor. We'll take it as well. Late first half action. Different look in the league, Lauren, but everybody beginning to get used to it. A stronger ACC due to its depth.
Oh, yeah. ACC games in Texas. I love it.
About SMU being in the league, and you got to mention, right, the West Coast as well, heavily involved. You're reminded when you think about those tangling at Moody Coliseum tonight. It'll be interesting to work through this league. Well, shots like this going to help Wake work through this league this year. There's another key three, and the lead is just that now. Trimmed once more on a three-pointer from Jones.
Wake Forest has certainly been comfortable from deep. First quarter was 0 from 4, and the second quarter has created 4 from 9 from deep.
You said it, all 4 of those coming in this second period surge. That's going to be off. Grabbed by Clark. She's covered up by those visiting jerseys of the Deacons as she tried to wrestle it away.
You know, Jason, I'm still thinking about ACC games in Texas and California, right? I'm thinking about when I was playing for Virginia, we had to bundle up in these very nice coats that were provided for us. Thank you, Virginia Athletics. Right. However, they will not need these big, large coats to travel.
got to keep the main things the main thing, right? When it comes right down to it. And so many things that come with the expansion of the league. And, you know, the coach is talking to us about how, you know, not having your pod, the unpredictability of the schedule, that's going to be a new wrinkle for everybody to walk through, Lauren.
Oh, yeah, it's going to take some adaptability, that's for sure. Trying to make things work on the go in new ways. Whenever you're traveling, you know, you really do have to get creative with recovery and then just meals, film, right? And so this is just going to be another addition to that.
And Coach Gebbia mentioning something that you don't think a lot about, and that is you used to see teams a second time, which gave you a chance to make some adjustments, and obviously that was a key part of it that first time through. You know, the deeper league is going to mean you're going to be maneuvering yourself through a gauntlet in a very different way than that usual kind of let's get a first look, let's go back the other way. It really is going to take some getting used to, but make for a lot of fun when you said it. The footprint of the league now across the entirety of the country, and you know, perhaps like these teams have shown us in recent years, you will get that second look when the ACC tournament rolls around.
Of course, and still got your rivals, so that's exciting.
Of course, she mentioned right away Gamora Johnson and seeing her when her team has faced Virginia of late. Virginia having owned the regular season meetings between these teams, and Wake, as you said, having their way in many ways at the start of the ACC tournament when these teams get together. She talked about, Johnson said, it seemed like the last two times we played, she had 47% and then 49% of the offense. She's watched as many more have been involved here today, including Lattimore, who goes to the floor here after some hard contact.
Yeah, Virginia's in a little bit of a scoring drought here, right under 3 minutes with no buckets, trying to make something work offensively after playing a hard-fought defense. Just one of their last 8 shots.
Lattimore from the line. 6 points in this first half. Make it 7 as she's true from the charity stripe.
How good has Lattimore been for Virginia this season so far? We know a little bit about her story with Texas and Miami, and her injuries unfortunately sidelining her a couple times, and just her ability to bounce back and have a final year that she really was hoping to have earlier, but, you know, is taking advantage of the time that she's getting and the role that she has on this Cavalier squad.
All the more important when it is a night that not all hands are on deck. Everybody is in the interior here for Wake Forest, and the Deacons secure an interior bucket. It is a one-possession game with a half-minute remaining in the second quarter, and this is going to go against Virginia. So Wake with a chance to equalize here, perhaps more, with 30.2 to play.
Well, we've seen some wild ACC games here in the first week of in-conference play, and I will not be surprised if this game continues to stay close, as Wake Forest is, like we talked about in the open, they prioritize defense, holding teams to just 54 points per game. Virginia with 25.
Yeah, you think about the pace battle that you expected to go on in this contest and keep in perspective where things sit in the closing seconds of the half. A couple of teams playing like a first ACC win this year rides on it. Stays with Wake, just trying to beat the horn. Nothing happening here, and Virginia will carry a lead, if ever so slim, into the intermission. What a first half, Lauren.
Oh, yeah.
You've been impressed with how the surrounding cast has played alongside Gamora Johnson. Interesting to see whether she can kind of emerge, as she so often does in the second half, to pull this team down the stretch, Lauren.
Yeah, well, Gamora Johnson's averaging almost 18 points per game. She is top in the assists in the ACC with about 4.5 assists per game, right? So that's a lot of action. It's a large load on her, and the ability to get other players like we've seen tonight in Lattimore and Purd, it's going to be important and vital moving forward.
And I'll underscore it simply because the Wake Forest head coach did. The last 2 victories for Virginia over Wake Forest, the regular season variety, she was responsible for almost half the scoring. She said 47% and 49%, if she remembered correctly, when it came to the impact that she had on those days. So Kamora Johnson certainly will have all eyeballs in JPJ on her in this third quarter as it begins. A 2-point lead for her Cavaliers as we get back underway here. What are you watching in terms of second half adjustments, Lauren?
Yeah, it's going to be pretty similar. Taking care of the ball for Virginia, and if you're Wake Forest, you want to take more efficient shots inside, and they started this game out going into the paint. And I'd like to see more of that for Wake Forest.
Well, for Virginia, the shot from without for Lattimore, who scored from just about everywhere. Lattimore has been among the headliners, as you said just a moment ago, and she gets Virginia's scoring started in the second half. Wake trying some perimeter shooting of their own. This will be out of bounds to Wake Forest. Last touch by UVA.
Yeah, Wake Forest shooting just 31% from the three-point line. But they take a good amount, making about 5.6 per game.
8 of 29 overall. So half that total coming from beyond the arc, and now more than half that total coming from beyond the arc. And getting involved in that scenario, player we talk about a little more on the inside, Turcoff from three-point land.
Yeah, to set it in the open, Turcoff can find her rhythm beyond the three-point line. Doesn't matter how it comes.
Virginia will try a three. It goes down. Noyan, nothing but net from the corner.
Now they're just trading three-pointers here. But the Dessa Noyan, she came into this game with 41% from three. She doesn't take a whole bunch. And here we see Virginia switching up defenses off of a make.
Both teams maximizing those recent possessions. A third three in the contest for Virginia and a fifth for Wake Forest. And the lead at 4 with nearly a couple of minutes gone in this third period. Window just not quite enough on it. McGee to lay that home.
That's a good shot. Not getting too deep in that lane and just trying to pull it up right above the rim.
Initially was a one-on-one in the interior. Numbers came for Virginia, and Hines couldn't connect. Here's Johnson falling toward the bucket. Contact there, but a transition chance for Wake as there was no whistle, and it will be laid home by the Deeks. Back to where we were at the half. 2-point game.
Yeah, Johnson got tripped up on the other end, and Wake Forest took that as an opportunity to get an easy 2 on the board.
As we've said about so many of these players who've had back-to-back buckets either from the interior and the perimeter or the other way around, Turcoff accomplishes that feat. Here's a three from the other corner, and it's drained.
Beautiful ball movement for Virginia, working inside and out. Turcoff lost sight of her defender when the ball got kicked out for a beautiful three-pointer in the corner.
Yeah, the first one for Clark, and now Clark, McGee, and Noyan, 3 of the 5 on the floor with a made 3 in the contest, as Virginia has used that as their weapon in this third quarter. Answer comes of the 2-point variety for Wake on the other end.
Good fight down low to finish in the paint.
Virginia deciding of late to make the 3-point basket their weapon. 4 of 11 in the contest from 3-point land. Nearly equalizing that category, with Wake having made a total of 5. Looking to even things all the way, but it rims off, and Wake will have the rebound. Tried to bank one home. As Turcoff tried it from the other side. Right down the line and against numbers.
Yes, this is the pace that you were referencing, Jason. Back and forth. Sometimes it can be without a bucket, but the last few times down, we've been able to see just fast break opportunity after fast break. She wasn't able to see it go down there, just as Wake Forest has missed a transition bucket as well, but we've also seen some threes in the mix.
Well, and we've seen this from Lattimore, working back to the line again. 3 of her 9 points have come on 4 free throw attempts in the game thus far. Couldn't make it 4 on that shot. Well, tonight at 10 Eastern, after our women's basketball doubleheader, the Nothing But Net crew breaks down tonight in the ACC, highlights an analysis of every women's game, and a look ahead at the best matchups on the schedule for this weekend. You're covered all season right here on the ACC Network and the ESPN app. Here in Charlottesville, the Virginia lead is 4. Deeks had it to a bucket at the half, trying to get it back there now, and there's enough contact underneath that Hines eventually. Here's the welcome sound of the whistle.
Wake Forest getting on the boards, closing the gap. 21 rebounds to Virginia's 23. Trying to get some more points on this board to close the gap on the scoreboard as well.
Interesting how the pendulum swings back and forth to some degree. Virginia closing up what was the advantage from three-point land for Wake, and at the same time, the Deacons closing up that rebounding advantage to turn the tables on UVA from that first half.
That's just something about this time of year where you begin to be tested in your strengths, right? And just the ability that Wake Forest knew coming into this game that, you know, Virginia's going to be on the boards. And so how can we, sometimes if you can't stop them, how can you beat them?
Cole's able to connect on the final of the free throws. One possession. It remains with 5 and change to go in the third. Johnson directing traffic a little bit to start this possession. Shot clock down to 5. Well, third quarter halfway gone. Still just a one-possession basketball game.
Jocelyn Willoughby, my former teammate Willoughby, and I, you know, getting to meet all of these women at different times as an athlete and former athlete. The one thing that they have in common, to be as great and successful as they have been, not only at Virginia but in the W and beyond, is the mental toughness that just comes from within. No one had to tell them how to go be great. They were just great.
Now you think about their playing careers in the WNBA, and saw Dawn Staley's banner there at the end. She's done okay for herself there in Columbia, South Carolina, with the reigning champs for sure.
Reigning champs, players who have gone on to play in the WNBA as well and become world champs. Okay, so she knows a thing or two about improving the level of the game, right? You have other teams now who are putting up some competition. We saw South Carolina take their first loss in a really long time to USC earlier this season.
Yeah, she's done a tremendous job. You talk about coaches who've come from the Virginia tree. Wake Forest, that game 12 days ago we talked so much about, it was against Trina Patterson's UNCG squad, another familiar Virginia name, a team that is expected in the Southern Conference to be near the top of the league. They played for the championship against a Wofford team Virginia got to know a season ago last year, and they're expected to be at the top of the league again. But this Jevia's squad facing a former Virginia player and now working their way into John Paul Jones Arena in back-to-back contests, even if they were separated by a week and a half or so. Hard to look around the country without seeing somebody that is at least once or twice removed from this program, Lauren.
That is so true. And Virginia and Wake Forest both looking for a bucket. They've been without, but Lattimore said, I'm going to change that.
And how often has she done just that in this contest tonight? Lattimore has really been the headliner in many ways when Virginia has needed a basket. She does so again. And for the first time in a while, there's a little bit of separation there. Virginia's lead at 6 as we head into the latter stages of the third.
Time and time again, she steps into that shot with so much confidence and is able to knock it down.
There's the Miami transfer, a couple of career double-doubles. Miami and Texas hits along the way, and she and her teammates coming to life now. Here's Hurd from distance.
We've seen that before. One Cavalier makes a three, and another one follows it up.
This looks in many ways like that first quarter surge from UVA, and it's going to force a Wake Forest timeout. Virginia pushes out front to a 9-point advantage. And now owning the third quarter right now. They're owning that three because of the three. Half the total tonight, Lauren, belonging to the Virginia Bigs.
Yeah, and just under 50 seconds, we see two forwards making it splash from deep. Here, Hurd is running in transition and just runs to that three-pointer line, knowing that her point guard, Kamora Johnson's going to find her.
They'll scramble for it. It's a tie-up, going to stay on this end of the floor. It's of note because this is a Wake Forest team holding its opponents to just 26% from beyond the arc on the season. That's top 50 in the country and top 5 in the ACC. And they're coming off a game 12 days ago. Yeah, it was the UNCG Spartans, but they allowed just 1 3 in 18 tries. Different story against the ACC foe Virginia tonight. And that's been a reason for the Who's advantage, which now sits on the verge of double digits, and it's Virginia basketball.
Yeah, when you're used to winning in a specific way, as we've just heard, Wake Forest likes to really take away those long shots. Then you have to find another thing to take away, right? We talked about rebounding, which they've done a really good job here in this game with, and now the three is really biting them.
Look at Virginia share the basketball. You know who's going to finish this. A three for who else but Kamora Johnson. You know, she's the one player that is on the floor that did not have one of those until now.
Until now, and Coach Mox always talks about it. While she will prefer her team to take more effective shots down in the paint, when her team gets going, she is going to reward them. And coming out of a timeout, she's able to call up a play for another three-point attempt.
You know, and that was an area that we pointed to as a Wake advantage. It's now a +2 Virginia advantage in threes.
Just moving the ball, goes all the way around the perimeter, back to the one who started the play off, Kamora Johnson.
Johnson now suddenly surging to 7 of her own. And again, on a night when Lattimore has led the way with 13, and Johnson has distributed the basketball as she pleads her case here. She's among those for Virginia, now a part of the three-point parade. Just like that, with 1:43 to go in the third, Cavaliers have reestablished that double-digit advantage they only enjoyed in the very early stages of this game, Lauren.
And it didn't take too long, just getting comfortable, moving the ball, and knocking down open shots.
Well, a chance for us to remind you, once again, next Saturday's ACC Network men's basketball triple header. You won't want to miss it. Clemson hosting Florida State at Little John. That's at 2 Eastern. Then North Carolina, NC State square off in Raleigh. And then Virginia Tech taking on Cal. Solid afternoon and evening of hoops here on the ACC Network. Johnson on the move. She dishes this, and the finish just as true for McGee, perhaps a little more.
Well, here comes the Mo and O show. Kamora Johnson finding her partner in crime in transition with a pretty no-look, might I add.
After all those outside baskets, she attacks the hoop. And McGee finishes with the three the old-fashioned way. The and one is true. 6 points for McGee, and Virginia continuing to stretch out that advantage in the late stages of the third. Suddenly to 15. Wake needing one, still sitting steady on 5 of those in this contest. Won't see it fall.
Yeah, Virginia making it very hard for Wake Forest, right? They are switching up defenses almost every time down the court.
In the paint, Coles turns around, and Wake Forest finally able to put an end to the 12-0 run that Virginia put together.
Yeah, Wake Forest able to find more in the paint. Almost half of their points, 14 points in the paint this game.
Tuck that away in the back of your mind. When things were tight in a one-possession contest, Virginia surging to the tune of a 12-0 run to create separation. Quickly up off the deck is Conley. Remember, she started the three-point shooting on both sides. She'll try to reconnect. Won't get it to go down. The bucket will come from inside, and Hines who lays it home.
Lack of a box out leads to a second opportunity for Wake Forest. And there they go.
Just the second field goal in the last 10 attempts for the Deacs. In many ways, that tells the story, that in the 12-0 Virginia run of this third quarter. It's a third quarter marked by separation for Kimora Johnson and the Cavaliers as they push the lead to double digits heading to the fourth. The world will work sometimes in a straight attack. You see the first 12 games lined up against the last couple and what it has meant. Just 7 points tonight, but that was a clip, Lauren, that showed you how many different things Kimora Johnson does, even when the numbers on the score sheet aren't eye-popping.
Oh, yeah, and something that also wasn't in that clip, right, is the confidence of other players. You see how many people had their hands on the ball in those clips, and just the ability for them to see that they have a shot of themselves and knock it down is what we have seen throughout this game.
It sparked a 12-0 run. The contest was 34-31 before Virginia went on that 12-0 run late third. Also of note, the Cavaliers turning the ball over just a couple of times in that third quarter with everything falling, much of it from beyond the arc. Here's Wake on the move, and this will be an and one chance for the Deacs. If you're trying to script the start to a quarter to bounce back after what they experienced in that third, this is what it would look like, Lauren.
Oh, yeah, and it's been back and forth each quarter. So far, Virginia has won 2 quarters, but all it takes is a big bucket like this for Wake Forest to get back into it.
Well, and think about Conley. She did so much of her work early on to grab headlines in this contest from three-point land. Here, she attacks the basket, comes away with 3, with the third coming from the charity stripe on the N1 chance. Conley has answered for Wake on more than one occasion tonight. Give her 14.
Time and time again, she has stepped up when her team needed her the most. And it doesn't matter where she is on the court, she's going to try to find a way to put the ball in the basket.
Big possession right here. If you're Wake, you've got to be thinking, single digits. There's something about single digits at this stage, Lauren.
Oh, yeah. Quick shots make a difference.
They come away with a stop that would give them the chance to get there after that scoring drought in the third. But it stays with Virginia, though this is off the fingertips. Rare miscue of late. Hines and company away with it.
Great poke out there for Paris Clark, and Kimora Johnson takes it the other way, and it's good.
Quietly working her way to 9. She is on the verge of double digits again, laying this one home.
This is around the time where Virginia wants to make sure they're taking care of the ball. You talked about it. They had not turned the ball over as much as they did in that first half. In just the third quarter, only had 2 turnovers.
Lead a steady 10. And the rebound handled inside by Hurd. Lattimore. Hurd quickly to Johnson. And it tickles the twine. True from distance again. How about those bigs you were talking about from three-point land?
I tell you, they are just posted up beyond the three-point line, and the ball movement tonight for Virginia has reigned supreme. When they're able to swing it around and get different looks at the basket, they're able to move that defense and get very wide open shots.
We referenced that Johnson was on the doorstep of double figures. Hurd with that shot is there alongside Lattimore, and Wake Forest has an answer on the other end. 3 goes down for the Deacs. Conley back in action again.
A big, big night for Conley. season high this year was just 12 points, and she already has 17.
Conley doing everything in her power to keep Wake Forest within striking distance. But Virginia will have a chance to build on the lead as Clark goes to the line. ACC PM, Mark and Taylor on weekdays at 4 Eastern. It's become one of your favorites, and you can always find it right here on the ACC network and the ESPN app. Keeps you up to speed on everything happening around the Atlantic Coast Conference. These two teams battling it out for what would be a first ACC win this season. They hope will be the first of many in the new calendar year. Virginia out front by 12 with under 7 to play. And that pinballs around until it's eventually grabbed by Conley again.
Yeah, that was a beautiful drive there by Kamora Johnson. I thought she was just going to take that left-handed layup and tried to flip it up.
Wide open look. Though it's back of the iron, top of the backboard, and it'll belong to UVA.
Sorby just hasn't been able to knock one down quite yet. She plays a lot of minutes for Wake Forest, and despite it all, she's still able to go in there and fight as she heads to the bench.
That was her third try from beyond the arc. Wake, of course, as a unit now, 6 of 24 from three-point land. When it was going well, it was the catalyst to put them right back in the ball game. But 6 of 24 contrasted with Virginia's 8 of 19, telling a good part of the story that has led to Virginia's sizable advantage now. (53-41), 6:12 to play. Coach Mox employing her team. We talked about this coming in, Lauren. You were talking about the 2 third-year head coaches and the development of these programs. It's nights like this that you lay another block on it.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. You have to rack them up, and you think about what we always hear from Coach Mox is building on one game at a time, right? There are going to be some games that they might drop, either team, right? And there are going to be some games where they are going to take the ACC by storm, or they're going to come up with an upset, right? Because they're good basketball teams. They're just having to find ways to be great night in and night out. And I think for a young coach with a new program, or a coach with a new program, you just want to continue to build.
Well, a very different way perhaps for Virginia tonight, but they're looking for a 33rd home win all time, a 72nd win all time. And this the 83rd meeting head-to-head with one of the old-time ACC foes, the Wake Forest team and Deacons. Deacons battling in the interior. Virginia had plenty of numbers there, but Hines relentless in her effort, and she draws a whistle.
Fourth quarter has been a lot slower than the others, and that's for both teams. And I should say the second and third quarter, right? Because we saw just 9 and 18 points from both teams respectively. And I see Wake Forest, right? They are a team that has continued to fight in and out of the paint. Unfortunately, they haven't seen the ball go through the net, just shooting 31% from the floor tonight. But their shots are diverse. They're being aggressive. And I think they're going to begin to fall as they move forward in this season.
Hines able to knock down what is a second free throw, and 6 tries in the contest thus far. 42 on the board for Wake. There's Virginia next, headed to Littlejohn Coliseum. 7 Eastern start next Thursday against the Clemson Tigers, trying to roll this into some momentum for that trip to the Palmetto State.
Oh, yes. Clemson had a very tight game against North Carolina State, and McGee for 3 is good.
McGee is connected on a couple of those. 2 of Virginia's now 9 from beyond the arc. Rebounding was a story early for UVA. Three-point shooting has been that in the second half, and Virginia will continue to trade 3 for 2 with right at 4.5 to go in the contest. We're glancing ahead at it just a moment there. Beyond Clemson, the Cavaliers get Duke, then they play Virginia Tech on the road and NC State on the road. This stretch that's coming up right here, Lauren, when you consider the rivalry piece of it and the NC State piece of it between here and January 19th, a key stretch for UVA.
Oh yeah, it's going to take focus and a lot of grit. These are teams that have been in and out of AP rankings. These are teams who have chips on their shoulders, right? None of them have won a national championship, right? And so in a few years, and so they're looking to get back there, and they're looking to build even against Virginia.
Well, they'll try to carry some momentum forward into that stretch with what has come, Lauren.
McGee for 3.
This is Cassie. She never really paid attention to her credit score.
Often the case, Lauren.
Yeah, they've been moving and grooving. 33 points off of those 10 assists in this half alone. And it also comes with some confident shooting by several people. We've seen Hurd knock down a few. We've seen Olivia McGee get comfortable from deep, and Kamora Johnson 1 of 3 on the night.
After the foul on Hurd, you take a look at those numbers ahead of the second free throw that bear out exactly what you're talking about. 14 total in this one tonight, and just when it looked like Wake Forest may be able to make one more run at Virginia, that 12-0 run in the third quarter and the consistent approach that you've seen as Johnson tries to finish another, but that's back of the iron, has put Virginia in a position to try to salt one away across the last 3.5 here for what would be a first ACC victory this season. Johnson, enough of a window to get a shot up, and she draws contact and will have a chance to secure points anyway.
Yeah, because during the time Virginia was knocking down threes back to back to back, Wake Forest had gone through a slump that was ended by their leading scorer of the night, and Conley, who has 17 points, right? And in the first half when that happened, Virginia was on a scoring drought, and that made all the difference, that Virginia was able to continue making shots when it mattered because Wake Forest wasn't slowing down either.
With that first free throw, Kamora Johnson in double figures. She now has 11. She joins Hurd. You've heard a great deal about Lattimore tonight and what Lattimore has done. It now should come as no surprise to Virginia fans that Johnson has emerged down the stretch to find another double-figure scoring night.
She always seems to find a way. She's averaging almost 18 points per game. And as we entered into this game, we talked about the scoring load that she had on Virginia so far. And she got a lot of help tonight, right? Between Lattimore's first half performance and, like we've talked about, the threes, but it's just her leadership remains steady, even with the slow start in her personal game, to be able to move the ball, make sure others are in their positions, and keep the team focused on the goal at the end of the night is what matters.
Yeah, the 7 assists, the 6 rebounds, also found time to mix a block in there, which grabs your attention. Dunbar in as a part of this personnel grouping with substitutions and a foul called underneath. As you get a look at Dunbar now into the contest for Virginia.
And when Dunbar steps on the court, you can expect to see a 3 fly. So look here for any 3-point plays, as they just ran an elevator for her.
Inside the Commonwealth product, getting early year, or early in 2025, that is, plans for the fans here inside JPJ. Quick turnaround on the other end of the floor for Wake. 2.5 to play. Virginia with numbers, looking to pull away further. Johnson, just enough touch to lay it off the front of the iron for the finish.
Great decision not to go for that bounce pass in transition. There were players running behind her. She lobs it up to her guard partner and Johnson on the go.
Just like that, 13 on the scoreboard for Kimora Johnson tonight. A little slow starting perhaps in the point category, but did so many other fine things as a part of that early Virginia run. I have at least 13 on this night. Wake still battling. This is a team, you said it a little bit earlier, you saw moments of brilliance from Wake. And here's another to go with it, but Virginia's strong in this second half, Lauren.
Yeah, fast break is where they live. They like to get it out and push, and when they're able to make really good passes where it is away from the defenders, they are so good, and they look so smooth.
Steady mix of that alongside the 9 threes in this contest tonight as Virginia out front 64-46 down the stretch. Well, nothing like starting the new calendar year with success at home, a place where there's a great deal of excitement around this program. You think about all the tickets sold and records broken in recent years.
Oh, yeah.
In terms of that, as well as eyeballs on basketball in the Commonwealth. To build with a little home cooking here, and the 10th three of the night. There it is. You called for it when she's in the game, and here's another. Plenty to build on here as you get ready to go on the road if you're UVA.
More threes going up for Virginia. They run play after play for it. As some shooters step in.
Well, and you think about how many different individuals. You called for another three there, and you got it. And there are 7 Virginia Cavaliers that have connected on one from beyond the arc tonight to make up the 10 threes Virginia has hit. And now they'll tie it up, and the possession arrow will keep it on this end of the floor as Hurd was in the mix.
And if they make this a thing, coaches and players watching Virginia on tape, they're going to have to account for their ability to knock down threes.
Well, consider over 40% from beyond the arc tonight against a team that had held opponents to just over 25% on the year. It served as one of the main weapons for what will be, in just under a minute from now, Virginia's first ACC win of the season. Why not try another? And this is going to be lost out of bounds. It'll be Wake Forest basketball with 32.2 to play. What can you say about the balance we've seen from Virginia tonight in this one, Lauren?
I mean, the inside-outside game from points and 20s, and their ability to knock down 10 threes. That's a perfect balance, right? Like they're not just looking for and settling, I should say, for threes, but they're taking what the defense gives them, and that's growth, and that's an imperative at this point in the season for the Cavaliers.
Virginia in a battle for pace against Wake Forest sets it here at home. They are on the doorstep of 70 as Johnson will dribble it out, and it'll be a 69-46 final. Virginia, a solid start. They really bookended it in many ways with that third quarter surge, the 12-0 run, and then kept Wake Forest at arm's length down the stretch to pick up their first ACC win of the 24, now 25 season.
Well, Coach Motz, I'm sure, was not happy with the 14 turnovers in the first half, but they were able to turn things around and get their first ACC win. They finished the game with a 13-2 run against Wake Forest, where they were able to just knock down